Frederick William Rolfe, who also called himself as Frederick William Serafino Austin Lewis Mary Rolfe, known perhaps better under his alias of Baron Corvo, was a British writer and eccentric. He was born in London in 1860 into a Protestant family. In childhood he was exceedingly religious, tattooing his breast with a cross at the age of 14. He first became a teacher, serving as master at Winchester Modern School and Grantham Grammar School by 1884, becoming a Roman Catholic in 1886 in consequence. His combative and sometimes arrogant nature led to his expulsion from Scots College in Rome when he was studying as a candidate for becoming a priest. He claimed to have been adopted as a grandson by the Duchess Sforza Cesarini, who was supposed to have granted him his title of Baron Corvo. The woman was indeed supposed to have taken him in while he was left homeless in Rome and agreed to pay him an allowance when he would return home to Britain. Periodically reduced to poverty and sacked from employment, he received aid from the Association for Improving the Condition of the Poor in Aberdeen. His friend Henry Hyde Champion eventually got him a job at his newspaper, the Aberdeen Standard, but after he left for Australia in 1893, Rolfe was once more out of work. In 1898, Rolfe published his first book, Stories Toto Told Me, ostensibly tales and legends told to him by an Italian youth. This followed a lengthy dispute between him and Father Buccleuch of a shrine of Holywell in Wales concerning payment for banners he had painted for the church. In 1904, he published his most famous novel, Hadrian VII, of an Englishman in Rolfe's day elected to the papacy. Rolfe was notorious for ending his friendships and collaborations badly, usually in a quarrel of some sort, such as with R. H. Benson. His The Weird of the Wanderer was co-written with British journalist Harry Perry Gordon, but seems based on Rolfe's earlier book on Nicholas Crabbe, which however remained unpublished until decades after the fact. A previous novel, Hubert's Arthur, also co-written with Perry Gordon, seems to deal with another past life of Nicholas Crabbe, or Crabbe. Rolfe moved to Venice in 1908 and lived there in perpetual poverty until the end of his life, with occasional monetary boost given him by friends with whom he would eventually quarrel. Rolfe died in Venice in 1913. Today's subject, The Weird of the Wanderer, being the papyrus records of some incidents in one of the previous lives of Mr. Nicholas Crabbe, was published in 1912. The book begins with a letter from the Grand Master of the Order of Sanctissima Sophia to Reverend Adam Howley, Professor of Hivite Literature at Oxford. It appears that in Armenia an old tomb was uncovered, and within it was found a mummy, a Greek inscription running, "I was Dilios among men on earth, O most kindly stranger, whom once Eveready Odysseus begat in Armenia." Surely, as I hear, his comrades called him Nicholas, but at other times he, as being a maid, was styled Balthazar. And besides this inscription, there are also two silver urns, sealed and containing a Smith & Wesson revolver, a gold watch, and a denarius of Emperor Augustus. It soon transpires that this particular sealed revolver has been sold to Mr. Nicholas Crabbe of Crabbe's Herborough in Kent, despite being sealed in a tomb for several centuries. Some papyri are discovered along with the mummy, and all of them seem to be written around the 1st century BC. The initial letter ends with not one but 6 postscripts before the story proper begins in the first papyrus. Here Nicholas Crabbe narrates that he is Nicholas Crabbe of Crabbe Harborough, and that he is also Odysseus as well as King Balthazar of Moxoine. Now I, King Balthazar of Moxoine in Nairi, Armenia, the Viceroy of Victory, Queen of the stalwart stately Anglicans, say thus to Empedocles my scribe, in my royal palace on the shores of my Tospitian sea, within my kingdom which I did not hold from Rome, having taken it myself by favour of great Zeus. Crabbe narrates how when life in Britain became intolerable for him, he went to study surgery in Egypt while also learning hieroglyphics. Eventually he took part in a magical ritual which accidentally sent him back in time to the time of Ptolemaios Ailetes, approximately 81 to 50 BC, who, by the way, was also the father of that one particular Cleopatra everyone knows by that name. And all this thanks to the aid of Amenemhat, the priest of Tarnis, whose spirit Crabbe summons up for this particular purpose. Assuming the guise of an Egyptian, he embarks on an adventure, riding to Thebes after disposing of the barbarian overlord Pyrrhos, whose men had been menacing the countryside. As he goes to rest, he is visited by the Babylonian god Bel-Marduk, that is, Marduk given as Lord Marduk, I believe, who prophesies to Crabbe that he will receive a kingdom in the land of Moxoen. He is then beset by the mercenaries of the pharaoh and has to take asylum in a temple. While in hiding, he is informed by Amenemhat that he is in fact Odysseus, and he is told to retrieve his weapons, being the bow of Eurytos and the sword of Euryalus, which had been placed on Odysseus's funeral pyre in his past life. Then the Oracle of Delphi commands him to go to the underworld and rescue Helen of Troy from Hades for himself, though he is opposed in doing so by both Theseus, Paris, and Menelaus. Nicholas succeeds and ascends to Olympus, where more bloody interreligious adventures and escapades await him before he settles in his kingdom in Armenia. And finally, before he departs, even this in a shining chariot, following the appearance of a new star in the heavens, shining brighter than any other star as it moves towards the southwest. Loving to read old myths from the pre-Christian age and enjoying them being presented as factual and fantasies, this book is something like what I would like to write on the subject one day. There are a few points to bring up as a criticism, but not many. At times, Rolfe describes his hero acting in a surprisingly brutal way. A man he does not like in particular at one point ends up with his tendons snapped, his face ripped off, but being kept alive and unable to die. And one other quirk is that Rolfe has a weird tendency to use but even when the sentence doesn't actually counter or negate the one preceding it. But beyond these minor issues, this is a most fascinating book, a book I has always wanted to read but never had the chance until I stumbling upon it by pure accident.